So cool.
Actually,
You have to like read through it.
This meeting of the Board of Education starts now. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank everybody for coming tonight, and we'll get started by approving our agenda. Is there a motion, please, on page 2?
President, I move that the Board of Education approve the agenda as printed.
Thank you. Is there a second?
second.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving the agenda as presented, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes, and we'll move right to the superintendent's report. Johnny?
Up tonight will be Russ Gerbers with our superintendent update related to bond project.
Good evening, Superintendent Edwards. Kind of give you guys an update on how the Woodland construction project is going, then we'll talk about how Amberley design and construction is kicking off as we go through the evening. But first up is the Woodland Elementary.
Might be off.
So as you can tell, this is the picture I take every time I go there to take a picture, so we can kind of get a series of how it goes.
All right.
Yep. Looking at me there. So as you see, the building's coming along nicely. They are finishing up the exterior walls of the last unit, which is Unit C. They'll be wrapping that right around the front there of the building, and then we'll have most of the block up, and they'll be ready for the veneer brick frontage to go around it, so that's exciting. I'm going to kind of take you guys through the building with some pictures. You'll see a lot since the last board meeting, which was a month ago. You'll see a lot of progress as we go through. Okay, now it doesn't want to work for me. Go 1 or 2 on that one. So here's the one portion of this is the Unit C portion that they have to fill out. They got to finish the north wall there, and then the west wall going back to connect to the rest of the building, and then the cinder block structure will be completely built. They can put the trusses on, and then the footing, not footing, but steel roofing on, the decking on as well, as you'll see where they've done it in other parts of the building. Here you'll see this is the back of the building, facing the playground area. You'll see they've already started the spray foam installation. Once the spray foam installation is on, they'll start coming back through with the brick veneer, and you'll really start to see the final product of the building start to come alive as they put that brick veneer on the backside. Here's the inside of the building, first floor. You'll see the grounds, they're starting to smooth out the ground, get the ground ready for cement work, so the flooring will be poured. And then obviously the carpet and everything will go over top of that. But they're starting to get it smoothed out so they can get that flooring in. You'll see in this area the plumbing's already plumbed in. Some of the electrical and that stuff is starting to take shape in these areas. On the far left there, you can kind of see a little green speck on the left side there. Well, my left, your left too. You'll see that's the in-floor heating, the area heating going around the outside of the building. Here's the second floor. You can start seeing some of the truss structure taking shape up there. Just a couple more pictures of the upstairs coming alive. This is where it's kind of fun. You see the roofing, the decking on. You can start to see the building really take shape here. They're gonna, once they get this all done, they'll pour another layer of cement across the entire floor to get a nice smooth surface for the carpet and everything to sit on. But they're working pretty well up there. Things are really starting to move along. You'll start to see more electrical come in, more plumbing as they start to build the interior of the building. Just some more outside pictures, just kind of, if you can start seeing the size of the windows, the shape of the building, how it's really going to look on the site. This is we're looking from one of the academic wings over to the gymnasium office area. You can kind of see the back of the building here. Really, they've come a long way since winter took its grip off us and gave us some nice favorable building conditions. They really sped up the pace and things are going smoothly. And then this is kind of the last slide for the update on the Woodland project. This is the brick veneer. They kind of got a mock-up that Tower Pinkster's team will look over, make sure it meets all their design specs and what the architects originally expected it to look like. And once Tower Pinkster gives the OK, we'll move forward and they'll start putting the brick veneer around the building. Is there any questions on the Woodland and the progress that's taking place there?
Just a lot of it since we saw it.
Yeah, it's a solid month of construction. Very happy
It's
with it.
great.
Hopefully we continue that and we have some favorable building conditions as we move through the summer, get that thing all buttoned up, wrapped up, so when you enter the winter, we don't have to worry so much about the outside elements as we did this year. Okay, as we transition over to Amberley, I'm going to ask OAK and Tower Pinkster to come on up and join me. They're going to kind of go through the slides for Amberley Elementary. One thing I want to say is we did have our community gallery walk the other day. A great participation from the community. We got the word out, social media. We sent letters out to the community around the building, just to get people to come out and see what the building looks like, see what's taking shape there. Overall, the staff really appreciated the look. They've been part of the design process all along, but they were able to actually see some of the final images, final renderings, and very positive from the staff. The kids, a lot of kids are excited about the playground. One was like, "Where's the monkey bar?" I said, "I want to know where the monkey bars are." So it's exciting to see. And overall, we had pretty positive support from the community. Obviously, there's some goods and some bads with everything like this, but overall, I'd say it was a pretty positive meeting overall for the people that showed up. So I'm going to hand it over to Doug, and Doug's going to kind of drive through the design update and how things are sitting. Yep.
Good evening, Superintendent Edwards and board trustees. So I will have one team member joining me. He got caught by a train, so he'll be flying in here just a couple minutes. He's one of the main team members responsible for the exterior design that we'll show some images of and that you can see on the, this is a portion of the boards that we had right before the gallery walk. We had 29 of them in total. And I think, as Russ mentioned, it was a great turnout. I think just given, when we did Woodlands Gallery Walk, Central and Haverhill had not yet opened. So I think those opening really, heightened some interest. And obviously there's some activity that's seen on the side as well, so I'm sure that helped. So just giving a high-level overview of the design process since we last saw you in January. Oh, skip one slide. So with all of the bond projects, these guiding principles were developed by the district. We continue to, our design team references them every project. We reference these at the beginning of every design review meeting that we have for all of the projects. And then again, similar to the Central, Haverhill, Woodland, we have engagement sessions with the staff. We really want to learn and understand what makes Amberley similar to those buildings. So these are the design drivers that were the output of the engagement sessions that we had with those staff, and that helped then inform the overall design, exterior and interior, and then all of the site opportunities. So we're gonna start outside the building, then we'll kind of revisit some of the floor plans that we again reviewed with you. Back in January, in January we came with a larger graphic that showed the whole site. There are city water wells on this site. There's an existing building that will remain while our project is in construction. So that led to the location of the building. We do have separate parent drop-off as well as separate bus drop-off, helping alleviate some of the current congestion that exists on the Amberley Street and other surrounding streets during drop-off and pickup. This will be the new main entry. This is kind of seen from the sidewalk between the bus loop and the parent drop-off. So as you're approaching the building from Amberley Street, you're using similar materials to those that we had at the previous projects. And again, just kind of blending the overall design aesthetic to that school's reaction to materials and then to the surrounding neighborhoods as well. This is more, moving to the north just a bit. This is what the view you would see if you were on the bus each morning driving into the bus loop. Again, main entry, and then on the left, the two-story volume. It's a learning community volume, again, similar to the learning communities in Central, Haverhill, and Woodland. And with the projects, we have the outdoor learning, outdoor gathering spaces. So this is one representation of such a space at Amberley Elementary. And then this is looking at the gym volume, the cafe, again, learning studios on the right, another outdoor gathering space. And then similar with the previous projects, getting new playgrounds. So this is just an illustration of one of the playgrounds that will be at the new Amberley. And this is, going back to high-level floor plan. This has been in development, again, since we were here in January, just utilizing, lessons learned as we continue to learn lessons from Central Haverhill, getting those incorporated both into Woodland and then also informing the Amberley design. So this is the first floor. And this will provide that axon view, just sort of a angled view looking down on the first floor, and you see the gym, the cafe, the learning communities, the main entry, the heart. This, all the projects have a heart. They vary in their use and their function and where they're at within the project based on each school's culture and desires. And this is the second floor plan. So again, the learning communities to the north, so that's the two-story volume along with the gym, the orange rectangle in the kind of lower right of the image. This is the axon of the second floor, again, just showing that, kind of angled view at the overall floor plan. You're seeing the, two-story volume of the gym and then the upper heart in this area, and then again, the, second floor learning communities. Now we're going inside the building. It's just representation of a typical learning studio, similar for any that have been within Central and Haverhill. Very much emulates the setup of those learning studios. Have made some changes in terms of a teaching wall. Now it's more mobile, so we implemented that at Woodland and Amberley. So the rooms will be much more flexible for that continued learning that the district is wanting to grow towards. And then outside of your learning studios, the shared learning commons. This is a representation of that. This is the heart seen from lower space. Anyone that's been in Haverhill look very similar to the setup at Haverhill. And then our upper heart, we'll go back one second. Upper heart at the top of the gathering stair. See the wall of windows. So this is the space behind there. So it's just allowing, that's an open space in Haverhill, just creating a different feel and a different type of space here at Amberley. Representation of the gym. There are additional daylighting requirements for projects now, and above and beyond what we did for Central and Haverhill, still have the cow wall glazing on the I think it's the east elevation, but here on the top right of the image.
What we wanted to do is just briefly kind of share where things are at from a budget perspective. Actually, things are trending very well from where we actually started. So when we talk about the SD, that's the schematic design, and that was just slightly over 49 million as we progress with the drawings and things. The DD budget came a little bit slightly under the SD budget, and now we're currently at the 50%. So we're actually in the bid phase. I believe you've already approved bid package 1, and we've got bid package 2 that we're bringing forward tonight, and then we'll have bid package 3 that's going to be coming here at the end of April. So things are really trending well as far as what we're seeing to date, and we're happy to see that. And then for bid package 3, just from a standpoint, that's the structural steel that is currently out to bid right now. So again, very positive of what we're seeing with things. Hopefully nothing changes with the whole thing that's headed bringing out to the east of us. So, but any questions on the budget? And then from a construction schedule standpoint, we're planning on, there's some activity that's going on there right now with some tree removal, and we'll start getting started with the demolition with Amberley here this summer once the students leave, and then really get into the heart of things this summer. And then the turnover for that is in August of 2028.
I believe that's our last
Any
slide.
questions?
Just clarity around demolition this summer. I think Russ shared, just to be clear, the building is staying in operation, but there's a portion of the building that needs to come offline.
Yeah, so the 5 northern classrooms, to give that buffer between the construction zone and create laydown zone and be able to get the traffic around the building while they build it. We'll be taking the 5 northern classrooms offline this summer, taking them off the building, recreating the side of that building so they can operate school for the next 2 years in the building while we continue to build behind the building. Is there any questions over that? I really want to thank OAK, Tower Pink, Steerfield International for all their work they've done on this project, the design work, the planning work, and everything. It's a lot to build a building, design a building. So the design is done. Tom, you're mostly done. Tom, your turn to finish up to start the next phase and get this thing built for us. So, and is there any questions we can answer for you guys?
Can you just provide a quick review of the challenges that building the school on that site presented?
Yeah, I mean, actually, there's several things that have challenged it. I mean, there's a lot of site constrictions from that perspective of where that building can go. There's a couple of wells, city wells that are out there that really constricted what we could do. And I will say that the district really was very proactive and tried to approach the city and talk through that scenarios of what they could do, what they couldn't do. And this was a result of, based on where we're going at to date, is what as part of those discussions. But there was a lot of conversations on the backside of trying to figure out how to do this and based on where we could place the building.
So besides the constraints of the wells, you also have the constraints of the size of Amberley. Amberley is about a 600-kid building. We have no place currently to put 600 kids if we were to remove the building, relocate the students for 2 years while we built in the existing spot. So that really drove the conversation of where the building is placed on the property. I will say our civil engineers, they did a great job of looking at the height of the building, how high the building had to be so we had proper flow with everything and not go into the woods as far as too far. Obviously, we had to go into the woods to place the building there, but the goal was as least intrusive as possible. And we really pushed on that. We really said, okay, how far can we keep it to the south instead of going to the north? And, you know, we really were talking, okay, if we move it a foot, we go further in, so let's not move that extra foot. It really was kind of a push and give with us and the civils to make sure the building's going to function properly and we're able to keep as much trees as we could. One thing we did install, which isn't typical, is we installed what I call a tree fence, which goes through the woods and keeps the contractors from disturbing any more of the forest that's already there.
And I probably would add, from a construction standpoint, talk about the demolition of the building, those 5 classrooms. That was kind of critical in the decision to try to keep that as far away as we could, but yet be able to allow the construction activities going on there. And that's why, you know, collectively we made that decision to do that. So.
And where are those classrooms going to go?
We're reallocating different spaces throughout the building of Amberley, spaces that were primarily used for like before and after school care. We're repurposing those spaces and they're going to operate like our other buildings where before and after school care takes place in the cafeteria and the gymnasium. They had their own room at Amberley for a while, so we're taking that room back over and they're going to operate like the rest of our buildings in the district between the cafeteria and the gym.
Okay, great.
So it's just a kind of a shuffle. We're moving some of our interventionists to different spaces. Currently, some of the interventionists are in full-size classrooms. They don't need to be in full-size classrooms, so we're kind of shuffling people around the building to make it work.
The staff been notified who's moving and
Yes,
when?
those conversations have all happened a few months ago, and they are all unaware. They're all actually starting to plan how they're going to pack, how they're going to. We're working with them packing. We're working through our logistics of when we're going to be where, so everything gets moved properly.
We also studied some traffic patterns, so we believe where the building is currently placed will improve our current traffic patterns. A number of our sites have different challenges related to drop-off and pickup, and Amberley is similar as other elementary schools. The school built 66 years ago was built right on the road. That's not uncommon 60 years ago. Also, the number of families transporting kids to school 66 years ago versus today has changed dramatically. And with that being said, schools are now giving longer drop-off loops to their schools to help with that traffic flow as well. So So another element of this is trying to help cars get off of the street, get further onto the school property, so we can have a better pick-up and drop-off experience for our families and students as well.
Any other questions, comments?
Just comment, I really appreciated the gallery walk, and I appreciated seeing not just what was there, but how you listened to people, how you listened to staff, community, and students and what their needs were, and then what you did as a result. Thank you very much.
So what we're gonna do, we'll leave the boards around the room up for when you guys are done tonight. We also have some samples in the back if you wanna see any of the colors, choices for interior and exterior, we'll have those as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move to our comments and communications section. Are there any folks who'd like to address the board this week? Yes, we have. And our secretary will now read our guidelines for public comment, please.
Public comment at board meetings. Board of Education meetings are held for the purpose of conducting the business of the school district. The board recognizes the importance of letting the public express themselves on district matters and welcome community input at our board meetings. To permit fair and orderly public expression, please conform to these guidelines when addressing the board. Attendees must register their intention to speak during the public participation portion of the meeting by completing the speaker registration form at the beginning of the meeting. Each speaker must provide their name, state whether they reside within the district boundaries, and specify the topic of their remarks. Individuals may not register others to speak. Speakers will be recognized by the presiding officer and may not be called on in the order in which they have signed up to speak. Limit comments to 3 minutes. Direct all comments to the board and not to staff or other participants. Speakers may not yield any of their speaking time to others. Provide a written copy of your comments and supporting documentation to the board secretary, if available. Present your comments in a respectful and courteous manner to model the behavior expected of Portage students. Refrain from mentioning any student or individual by name. Contact the superintendent directly regarding personnel matters. The board has a legal obligation to protect the due process rights of students and employees. Typically, concerns raised by speakers during public comment are best addressed through the established chain of command. Board policy delegates resolution of operational concerns to the superintendent for further action.
Thank you, Terry. You know, welcome our first speaker tonight, Kat Frank, president of the PEA. Welcome, Kat.
Forgive me, my souvenir from spring break is a cold. Good evening, trustees and Superintendent Edwards. I'd like to share a few highlights and positive updates from our wonderful staff and students. Amber Dixon at Northern High continues to do excellent work in her economics classes, utilizing the nationally recognized EverFi platform to teach personal finance. She regularly shares scholarship opportunities with students, and this past semester, 2 of her students applied for an EverFi scholarship and were each awarded $1,000 to support their educational expenses. Congratulations to Amber and her students. Our Portage Northern Engineering Wood Technology program has had another strong year under the guidance of Jeff Weicker. Students have completed a wide range of meaningful real-world projects benefiting both our schools and the broader community, including building items for local organizations, producing school signage and awards, and contributing to Portage Parks and early childhood programs. Notably, 2 students will receive KRESA Outstanding Achievement Award scholarships as well. These experiences continue to build valuable technical skills while fostering collaboration, problem solving, and community connection. Thanks to Jeff for organizing all of these opportunities for our kids. I also want to recognize the staff's exceptional teamwork during the unexpected technical issues with wind testing for juniors at our high schools on April 9th. Thanks to their flexibility, especially leadership of first-year testing coordinator Corey Downey at Portage Northern, first-year testing coordinator Dr. Courtney Bacallier at Portage Central, and soon-to-be retired coordinator Jason Frink at Portage Central. It was an impressive effort and greatly appreciated by all. Lastly, I'd like to encourage everyone to attend our IB Educators of Distinction Awards ceremonies. IB diploma candidates choose 2 educators to honor in front of their friends and families. For Central High, that is 3 p.m. on May 3rd. And at Northern High, that is May 13th at 7 p.m. Thanks.
Thanks, Kat. Hope you feel better soon. Our next speaker is Ethan Winter. Welcome, Ethan.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. My name is Ethan Winter. Along with my wife Sarah and our daughter Lydia, I live at 2833 Tattersall. The southern edge of my property abuts up to the northern edge of Amberley. In short, I'm your neighbor. And unfortunately, I have to come to express my dismay and disappointment with the board and how the school and plans and transparency, or lack thereof, are now impacting us. Just to run down a timeline of events as I understand it, the additional millage was approved in November of 2025. Nothing as far as public information about the plans and the proposal was shared until April 7th when the walkthrough occurred. The walkthrough was not participatory, it was advisory that this was happening, and it was only then that we learned that the school was going to remove, or this board rather, was going to remove a substantial portion of the woods. As some folks on the board are already aware of, those woods contain threatened species, including bats. Part of the reason that the extreme demolition going on right now and the clear cutting of the woods is to bypass the spirit of the law in protecting those bats, because that would kick in on April the 15th. I'm very concerned about our engagement with the community and how we addressed the community in planning this, communicating how the proposal was going to impact our neighbors, and being, frankly, good stewards of the property in question. I did not know until April 7th, and I consider myself very engaged and a huge supporter of public schools. I come from a family of public school educators, that the easement issues with the well were impacting more than 40–50% of the buildable land on the plot. Once that occurred, the public needed to be re-engaged. According to the bylaws of this board, we cannot allow or cause material deviations from the original plan as portrayed to the community. I'll be frank, I think this board failed to portray the plans to the community in a timely manner that allowed and took into account public input of those very neighbors who surround Amberley. We were excited up until recently here to send our daughter to Amberley. She would walk through the woods, go to school. I'm not sure if that will happen now because we're not sure if we're going to move or not. The school will be extremely close to our property with a 2-story building overlooking our backyard, impacting sunlight and a wide number of wildlife who inhabit those woods. This community green space means a lot to our neighborhood. I'm concerned as to when the board became aware of the easement issues and the change to the buildable land on the property, how that was communicated to the community, and how the input of the community is reflected in the plans here. I can't help but notice, as I read through what we heard, there's no comments from the neighborhood. We canvassed very quickly after we had the demolition crews in there, taking out trees and destroying the wildlife habitat of a threatened species. Who else and what they'd heard? We had received one survey, and throughout the course, since 2025, we had made numerous calls to try and obtain plans. There's one blog post from January, I assume around this time, no published plans of this. In fact, there still is proposals. Why are trees being removed if this is not a done deal? I have to ask the board, what is going on? Where is the transparency? This is not what a good neighbor does. This is not how we expect our children to behave. The board must be above reproach. The school district is not a business. Due diligence is of the utmost importance. If we are going to make decisions based on a timeline for funding, we need to be frank about why we're doing what we're doing. And to be honest, if we're going to run the district like a business, we're not doing the right thing. It's not a business. Our job here is to be good stewards and provide a quality future for our children as well as provide a place of learning that the community itself can benefit from. In this case, I agree we need a new school. Do I agree with how this has been determined, where the location is? No, because there's been no input from the direct local community to Amberley. I know I'm not the only one who has this opinion. A number of my neighbors who are impacted share this. In fact, one of them shared with us that the flyer that they got for the community walkthrough, if you will, came on spring break while they were gone. By the time that they got their mail, trees were coming out. Now, I don't know about you, but if I lived on a lake and that lake were suddenly drained behind my house, I would be a little upset. So I hope the board can appreciate where I'm coming from here and why I'm feeling that this is definitely coming, frankly, out of left field. So I'm curious how we were engaged as a community beyond these meetings, what specific efforts were made between when we became aware of the easement issue and when the walkthrough occurred. If the answer is no public comment was taken into account, or we cannot give an answer as to why we're moving forward here, I urge you to reject Tower Pinkster's bid for the second phase. We have not done our due diligence. I'll be honest, how do we quantify these things? Was there discussion around, possibly terminating the lease for the wells? The wells reside on public school land and the city doesn't want to, frankly, make any sort of, concessions for this. Did we make sure we went over everything and decide this is the right place for the school? Perhaps we do need to build it in place. Either way, the community was totally unaware that they were going to be losing a significant green space. That includes a disc golf course, an outdoor classroom, bikers that go through the woods. You name it, the community, we use this place. 3/4 of it's gone. I encourage you all to drive by Amberley and see the destruction that was wrought today. My confidence in this board and my confidence in the school district has been utterly shattered. I urge you all to do your due diligence and do right by your constituents by ensuring that we are following not only the letter of the law, but the spirit of the law. If we are tearing down trees to try and get around protections for threatened species, it is a very quick hop, step, and a jump away from what other sort of ethical shortcuts we're willing to take in order to get this construction project done. I would much rather we wait. I'd rather my child have an outdated school than have to wonder how this happened. Thank you.
Thank you, Ethan. Our next speaker is it Micah, is that correct?
Thank you.
Micah Winter?
Appreciate it. Well done. Micah Winter. I own property in Portage. I reside in Kalamazoo. I couldn't be nearly as eloquent, but not much to add. I reiterate that. I just want to point out a couple of things. The lack of transparency. There's a couple of things I look at timeline-wise, right? So I want to know how and when exactly community input was gathered and taken. So you talked about the gallery walk, and very proud of that. So that is an output measurement and feedback session, right? Great. I want to know where the inputs came in from the community, not from the board, from the community, right? When did that happen? How did that take place? How is that documented, captured, and how has that been also shown to the community? The other thing I look at here too is timing, right? So if we're going to stand on ceremony and say the gallery walk somehow meets those needs, that took place on the 7th. Trees were raised on the 13th. So I want to understand as well, by FOIA records, right? Were those contractors not engaged until after that gallery walk? Or was that a done deal, right? Is that window dressing? Is that what that really was? Right, here's a gallery walk, but we already have all of this contracted, we're pulling the trigger, right? What type of disingenuous representation of the community is that? So, as I look at this, there's a lot more digging that I want to do. I want to understand also the environmental impact assessment that took place, right? What did we do as due diligence? What did you do as due diligence before tearing things down? And then what does it mean to restore that, right? We look at this and say, oops, we really screwed up. How do we go back with that? Once again, I can't do it. I can't add much more to what he added. But I will say I also call on you to reject the second phase. I don't think anything here has been done with a manner that can put forth confidence going forward. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Micah. Our last speaker tonight is Sarah Winter. Well done.
Hi, everyone. This is my first time, so please excuse my nerves. My name is Sarah Everett, Sarah Winter. I'm Ethan's wife, and I am a resident in Portage. And as Ethan stated, this is our backyard that was uprooted suddenly today up on a proposal. I did canvass as much of the neighborhood as I could. When Ethan said that he saw that there was a board meeting tonight and we would be attending, or he would be attending, I immediately went to as many neighbors as I possibly could to get their opinion and their feels and let them know about this meeting tonight. Several of them have shown up. This took all of us by shock. The last thing I received in the mail was 2 years ago. That would be something that, oh, they might be taking woods out. Something might be happening in your backyard. We've been going back and forth on it as to whether or not that would mean that we would continue to live in this neighborhood or move ever since. It's just been that out there topic. We received a flyer in the mail, not a letter, not a communication, but a flyer that I received, but my neighbors across the street did not receive because they're not immediately bordering where this is taking place. It's not going to immediately affect them. So that's my opinion as to why maybe there was such a small turnout when everybody showed up to see these proposal plans. Because it wasn't a great turnout, no offense, but it was pretty small when we have such a huge neighborhood that utilizes that area. I did not hear positive feedback at the proposal. So that being said, and there's another neighbor here as well who didn't get a flyer, and even though she lives on part of this bordered area, which makes me think maybe the flyers were only put in the people's mailboxes on Tattersall. That would be most affected, but I would love to see any postage or record that could tell me that I'm wrong there. But that was the next we heard, was that flyer. And so immediately we were there. We were like, all right, we're gonna show up on Tuesday, we're gonna be there. So we showed up, we asked questions. This gentleman did answer some questions for my husband, but we got a lot of not sures. And when we asked directly whether there was gonna be like a tree replanting of some sort, we didn't get much of a committal, no commitment there. So that was Tuesday evening. Wednesday, and we're still under the impression that this is a proposal, as all of these plans indicate down at the very bottom. At least I hope the ones that you've got here say that, because the ones I have photographs of do. So that leaves us Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, for my husband and I to consider what our next steps are. Who do we contact? What do we do? How do we stop this? Because we know that there's endangered species. The bats, and for one, and that's what I've got here for you. And there's red-tailed hawks and possibly Cooper's hawks, which I can't confirm because I don't know Cooper's hawks, but one of my neighbors does and says that we have Cooper's hawks there as well. These are hard to come by. Among the many other species. And the butterfly garden, that was something that got taken out as well. No more butterfly garden. So all the butterflies that have been taught that they can take this route, so sorry. So I'm gonna plant one in my yard, but it's gonna take a little while for them to find it. So I guess what I'm saying is that gave us 3 days to do anything when we thought that this was a proposal, not a done deal. And all of a sudden, here comes Monday and chainsaws and trees are being pushed down. I mean, 2/3 of the trees back there are gone. I have photographs of what the demolition plans are because I went and spoke with the foreman and several others, and they were happy to show me the plans, show me what's going on. So I have those photos on my phone if anybody wants to see them. I'll remind you that those giggles back there, that's who the woods were stolen from today. She doesn't get to grow up in the woods like I did with my brother. I do want to make one more point, besides not being completely blindsided by all of this. Doesn't it seem like cheating when in 2 days, we're not allowed to cut any woods down back there? None. Because we know there's protected bats. We know. In 2 days. So we pushed it through today. And even the foreman told me, yeah, we're pushing it through because we can't do any more on Wednesday. Because we know that there's protected species there.
Shame.
So I remember voting for you, Mr. Snyder, and I hope that you make me proud. I appreciate all of your time.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, we'll move on to comments by board trustees, please.
None from me tonight, Randy. I may have comments under our action items. No.
Anyone?
Just looking forward to the IB celebrations and all the things that come with our graduates, achievement honors awards, all those kinds of things are always really rewarding because that's the business we're in, is educating our students for the future. And so looking forward to attending those.
I thank board members for their comments on MASB. Thank you very much. I want to remind everybody we have a policy committee meeting on the 24th to follow up on those items from our last retreat. And finally, graduation assignments will be coming out this week, and if you ask to speak, I think you're going to have the opportunity. So thank you very much. Okay, moving on to our consent agenda on page 5. We have 2 items there tonight. Both of them are minutes. First one is the March 9th, 2026 Policy Governance Retreat and Regular Business Meeting. The second item is the April 8th, 2026 Special Meeting and Closed Session Minutes. Are there any exceptions to the consent agenda as presented? Very good. Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved, and we'll move to assurance of district performance. We have a monitoring report 1.3. Johnny.
All right. Thank you, President Van Antwerp, members of the Board of Education. I want to give an overview of monitoring within policy 1.3. 1.3, as it reads on page 16, is about students with social emotional learning competencies. There are 5 areas that are addressed within that: skills and self-management, self-awareness, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making to build resilience to navigate life. Below that is an interpretation that I've moved forward in those 5 areas. More importantly, as a district, we've looked at some of the things related to our Michigan Department of Education, this concept of CASEL, which is Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning Competencies. This is for student development. We looked at those 5 areas what the board has and crosswalk those with 7 areas under CASEL. Top of page 18, it talks about identifying and prioritizing learning outcomes, identifying essential questions, developing key vocabulary questions and sentence stems, developing a sample performance task with formative assessments, developing a learning program that identifies beginning skills through advanced skills, identifying connections to content area strategies, crosswalking competencies with student experience surveys. As we continue to unpack these, understanding that I consider these to be life skills. If you think about these 5 areas, these are areas that carry you further in life, just not in school. On page 19 of this report is a snippet, I'm going too fast. Pages 19 and 20 is an overview of some examples we do at the elementary level, middle school level, and even the high school level. At times we've broken up some of these areas in smaller segment. For example, under self-management, there's an area specifically for grades 9 and 10, a different area for grades 11 and 12. If you move under self-awareness, we have some elements specific to lower L or K2 and some areas related to upper L grades 3-5, all of which, again, I consider to be great in terms of life skills. We give what we call the Student Experience Survey through Studer. We do that every spring. We do it for employees. We do those for parents or guardians or caretakers. We also do this for students. And there are 4 areas within the student experience. I'm sorry, 5 areas within the student experience I want to lift up really quick on page 21. Last year in 2025, we surveyed 4,823 students. From that, they were asked about setting their learning goals and tracking progress. A skill score of 3.62, which is pretty comparable to the previous 2 years. My learning is important at school, 4.31. Again, up over 2024, but somewhat in line. I feel safe at school, which is huge. And when we think about safety, that's not just physical safety. That includes what we call psychological safety, 4.04. And then my teachers challenged me to think, which is also critical, 4.05. Currently, right now, students are in the midst of student experience surveys. What's new this year by law is survey questions for students must be posted on the district's website. On the district's website are all of the questions that we give to our students. But for the sake of time, we wanted to lift up 4 of those areas related to their experience, and not all of them in its entirety. Also, we just want to commend our curriculum department and our teachers, because this area around 1.3 is not just purely around academics only. It's about educating the whole child, giving them skills that they'll carry forward in life as they become a future employee or employer or entrepreneur in some case. I believe that my report, the organization has met expectations, and I'll be happy to answer any questions about monitoring report 1.3.
Just a comment, but stuff in here is hard to measure.
Correct.
So we've documented what we're doing. What we can measure is the student experience survey. And the good news there is that all of those indicators are going up. Don't quite know what's behind that, but probably good things are behind that. And some of it might just be it's continuing kind of recovery from the pandemic still. But it also says good things about what's going on here. So appreciate seeing those scores and appreciate the work from you and the team.
Great, thank you.
I was also going to comment on it being difficult to measure, so I'm glad you brought that up, Bo. The items that you mentioned here from the student experience survey, would you say that those are indicative of the overall? Are things going up, would you say?
You know, for this report, I didn't do a item by item analysis of all. I think it's 20 questions. Don't quote me on that. It's on the website though. So I did not do an item by item analysis. A couple things that I look at. One is, do we have some measure of strong participation in the results? And while 2024 was a good high water mark, our 2025 numbers is on top of 2023. If the number was substantially smaller in terms of participation and the results were up, I would be more alarmed because it would be a smaller sample size. But, you know, 4,823 students is still more than half of our students. And we exclude the lower, you know, the littles. So that's a strong number for us. So I don't want to come out and say, oh yeah, every area is up. But I will say, based on these areas that we've particularly identified, I feel confident in the progress that has been made thus far.
Excellent. This is so difficult to measure, and yet when we look at countries whose scores are extremely high compared to the US, over and over I read that they're focusing as much or more on bringing joy to the learning experience and on, well, Finland says just teaching them to be good people. And that just highlights how important this is in general, to know that that really improves academics. It improves so many areas for the student, that bringing the joy to students is so important. And that's where you get the feeling safe. That's where you get those other items at school. And so, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? It's an excellent report. I think we ought to approve it. There's a motion, please, on page 15.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education accept as presented the monitoring report on 1.3 ends as a reasonable interpretation and evidence of compliance with policy.
Thank you, Terry. Is there a second? Thank you. All those in favor of approving monitoring report 1.3, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The monitoring report is approved, and we'll move to our next item on our agenda, a required action item. Resolution authorizing the 2026 school building and site refunding bonds, and Paula Johnson is going to help us with that.
Good evening, trustees and Superintendent Edward. Included in your board packet was a resolution so that we can move forward with the fourth series from the 2021 road related to construction and continuing improvements throughout the district. The amount of the fourth series will be $72,345,000, but we have the option now, because our 2016 bonds are 10 years old, for a potential refunding at the same time that we're going to be doing this bond issue. So the resolution that is included in your packet has a total of $158,845,000, which includes $86,500,000 of that 2016 bond balance. So we could potentially refinance up to that amount. We won't know until day of sale. We're going to do this to save money on the interest payments that we are paying related to the bond. So I can report back to the board once everything is done, but once the resolution is approved tonight, we will move forward with the ratings call with Standard & Poor's and go through the process, have a pricing around May 19th. We'll receive bond proceeds in June. We're using the same bond counsel with Miller Campfield as we've always used. We're using Baker Tilly as our financial advisors, and we're along with Stifel. And because the issuance could potentially be so large, it's larger than a normal amount that I would bring to your attention for approval, we will have two co-manager underwriters. We're going to be using, we'll use Stifel, and Huntington Bank as co-managers. So that's what's going to happen over the next couple of months, and we'll be able to continue with the projects. Any questions?
So Paula, so looking forward, this is not the last one of these that we're going to have to do, or is it the last one?
So the last one related to the 2021 vote.
Okay.
We will bring forward at a future date the first sale related to the 2025 vote.
Okay, so we haven't started on that bucket of funds yet. Okay. And it's good that we'll have a chance to potentially refinance and save some interest.
That'll be a goal.
Good.
Anything else for Paul? Okay, there's a motion to approve this resolution on page 23, please.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approve the resolution authorizing 2026 school building and site and refunding bonds as presented.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, sir. All those in favor of approving the resolution authorizing the 2026 school building and site and refunding bonds, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion passes. And we'll now move to our action items on page 42. And our first one is new administrator appointments. Brad's going to help us with this one.
Good evening, trustees. Superintendent Edwards, good to be up here tonight. I am here to recommend that the board approve the hiring of 2 administrators for Portage Schools. First is Mr. Tim Knox. Tim is being recommended as a new athletic director here at Portage Central High School. So since 2012, Mr. Knox has worked for the University of Illinois, most recently as the Associate Director of Athletics, Facilities, and Capital Projects. Prior roles at Illinois include being Director of Football Operations and Assistant Director of Athletics for Football. Mr. Knox's ties to this community started when he was here, started as a grad assistant at Western Michigan University, and then moved his way up through the Western Michigan ranks as well, ending as Director of Football Operations there, before moving with the then coach to the University of Illinois. He and his wife Danielle are anxious to get back to this area, so they loved living here, and they're anxious to become members of the community. They have 4 children who will be here, and one of his main questions to me is, okay, do I have to live in the central district, or if I live anywhere, my kids can come with me to school? And I assured them they can certainly come with you to school, so I know they're already working through that. So the second administrator to hire is Ms. Jennifer Meisterheim. A very personal one for me. She's being recommended as the Director of Human Resources when I am done in 77 days. So, honestly, I'm not counting the days, I'm counting the board meetings. I have 4 after this one. So, Ms. Meisterheim has worked for the Portage Public Schools since 2009. So starting as an HR generalist, and she was promoted in 2021 to be the HR manager. Prior to joining Portage, she worked for in Research and Development as well as Intercal LLC. So she graduated from Western Michigan University, holds her certified professional from the Society of Human Resource Management, and is a graduate of Portage Central High School. So I know your HR will be in wonderful hands with Jennifer. And I am also still a phone call away. She's made sure that I will answer her call. I'm telling our principals I may answer theirs if they call me. So the first question will be, have you talked to Jennifer, if they do call me? So with that, I would ask the board to approve. Jennifer is here this evening. I did not want to make Tim drive a 5-hour round trip to come to a board meeting. He did that 3 times through our interview process, including at least one where he drove here, interviewed, and turned around and drove immediately back. So I know Terry's made that drive numerous times as an Illini himself. So we did not make him come up here, but I know upon your approval, we will certainly let him know. Thank you.
Questions for Brad? Well, Brad, I think they're 2 outstanding candidates. I can't speak to Tim personally, but I certainly can speak to Jennifer. She has certainly helped my family out on a number of occasions. We appreciate it very much. So thank you and congratulations. There's a motion, please, on page 42 to hire these fine people.
Mr. President, I make a motion that the Board of Education approve the appointment of the following administrators for the Portage Public Schools for the 2026-27 school year. Tim Knox as the Athletic Director for Portage Central High School, and Jennifer Meisterheim as the Director of Human Resources for Portage Public Schools.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of the new administrator appointments, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes, and the new administrators are going to be in place. Thank you. Our next action item is the Teacher and Staff Appreciation Week proclamation on page 44. Is there a motion, please?
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approve the Teacher and Staff Appreciation Week proclamation as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there a volunteer to read the proclamation this year?
I'm willing to.
Very good. You're a teacher. Seems appropriate.
That's why I volunteered.
Yeah,
As a
good.
fellow teacher, you are appreciated. Teacher and Staff Appreciation Week proclamation. Whereas a strong and effective system of free public education for all children is essential to the success of our democracy at the national, state, and local levels. And whereas a high-quality public school system contributes to the strength and the vitality of the community. And whereas the vision of Portage Public Schools, we are inspired to be an exceptional community grounded in fostering strengths, growths, and lifelong learning. Every student, every future guides its mission. And whereas the dedication of Portage Public Schools teachers and staff in inspiring students to achieve success academically, artistically, socially, and athletically is vital to realizing this vision. And whereas Educators and staff consistently go above and beyond in service to students, making a meaningful and lasting impact on their lives. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of Portage Public Schools hereby proclaims May 4th through 8th, 2026 as Teacher and Staff Appreciation Week in the Portage Public School District, and encourages all members of the community to recognize and thank educators for their ongoing commitment and contributions. Adopted this 13th day of April 2026 by the Portage Public Schools Board of Education.
Thank you, Kimberly. Are there any comments?
We appreciate you.
Hey.
You do hard work. It is seen. We hear it. We see it. I acknowledge it. We acknowledge it. It's more than most people realize what teachers do. They don't go home and be done. There is a statement that I hear so often that, well, teachers have the summer off. Teachers don't have the summer off. You're doing extra education, you're doing planning, you're spending your weekends planning, you're spending your evenings planning. You don't leave work at work like, say, an engineering job. There's so many jobs where you leave and you're done. And teachers do not do that. They just keep going. And they do that while including their families in it, or while spending time doing extra stuff while their families are doing other things. And I would say that teachers deserve this appreciation, not just during this week when we highlight it, but all year round.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Randy, I would add that you can make the argument that this is the most important community institution that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And these good people show up every day and make it all happen, and we are grateful.
For sure. In my opinion, every day ought to be Teacher Appreciation Day.
Yes.
We can't do that, though.
Do.
No. Okay, then, all those in favor of approving the Teacher and Staff Appreciation Week proclamation, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The resolution passes. Thank you. Our next action, item number 3, is revisions to ends policy 1.3. And this is an outgrowth of what we discussed at our last retreat, to change the language of that policy from its current form to students will exhibit behaviors that are mentally and physically beneficial to themselves and others. Our existing policy language is limited to social emotional learning, makes no provision for mental health and or physical health as well. And as you recall, we discussed this at our last retreat, and this is the language we agreed to. Is there any comments, questions? Okay, then there's a motion on page 46.
President Van Antwerp, I move that the Board of Education approve the revisions to ends policy 1.3 as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. All those in favor of approving the revised ends policy for 1.3, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The new policy will be in place for next year's monitoring report. Okay, we have another action item, the Amberley Bond Project Concrete Footings and Foundations Contract. Russ?
Good evening, Board again. Superintendent Edwards. So we talked earlier during bid pack 1 as we broke the bid pack for Amberley up into 4 bid packs, much that we did the same way for Woodland Elementary. In terms of to get the packages out sooner and to secure better pricing, well, to get more contractors interested in the job just with timing and whatnot. For this bid pack, we had great turnout. We had over 8 contractors bid on it. The prices were pretty competitive. They were pretty close bidding, which is a good sign. It means people at the low bid didn't miss work, and we have to go back and fix that. When you see the prices come in like that, it's a good thing. So this is for the concrete, so that's your footings, foundation, and flat work for Amberley Elementary. We're recommending that we approve it for Choice Concrete Construction in an amount of $417,770. Proceeds from the 2026 bond fund. It's the 4 series in the 2021 vote. That's what we're recommending moving forward today.
Any questions for Russ?
I have nothing on the technical aspects of the proposal, but we need to stop and talk because we had some people step to this podium and encourage us to vote no on this. So we need to pause and talk about this. Johnny, I've got to look at you. Need your input. Some things were said at that podium that indicate that we need to vote no on this. I need you to weigh in that after hearing those comments that this is still placed before us and it is your recommendation that we proceed. And if you can fill in some gaps, but I think it's important that we pause and just reflect on what's been said. And I have more things to say, but I wanted you to weigh in too.
Great. Amberley is the 4th school in this series. So I'm backing up a little bit. Meaning that we've done Central L, we've done Haverhill, Woodland is approximately 50% complete. And now we have this portion with Amberley. The process that we use under my leadership as Assistant Superintendent of Operations carry forward from the first 2 buildings in Central L and Haverhill, which we were designing simultaneously. We learned lessons, moved those forward into Woodland, and then subsequently took those same lessons learned and pulled them into Amberley, okay? As we look at the Amberley site and what we have there, we have a school that educates no more than 600 students, that's there. We have Wells with the city. Those are 99-year lease agreements, which started 60-some years ago before all of us were at the table. The ability to modify that lease, close down Wells, is totally beyond our control. What we worked with the city on was trying to back up the area in some way so we can get a nice drive into the site. And so with some work and some negotiation and looking at the several iterations we gave the city, they agreed that our proposal to get parents safely on and off the property, they agreed with, okay? This northern portion of the bond, or I'm sorry, of the site related to the woods, required a great deal of studying and work from several individuals, not just us. Because honestly, some of the work on the construction side is not our expertise. We are educators. So as we worked at how do we keep or maintain our students inside of the building, if not, we have to figure out where to place them, which we don't have at the moment. And we're looking at the betterment of the entire project. We felt it would be best to keep the Amberley students inside of the school at the same time. So students stay. Wells have restrictions. There's a radius in which we can't touch. Based on the square footage of the school, if it was only single story, that actual footprint would be much larger. And had we did a single story school, there would be potentially additional woods taken out. So we wanted to carry forward all of the design elements in the first 3 schools, take into consideration our restrictions, and make the best decision possible for the district. Understanding that even when we designed Central L, Haverhill, and Woodland, we didn't get 100% consensus that everything in the design was right. But we tried our best to look at our guiding principles and make the best decision for the district. So while I understand that this could be disruptive to some neighbors or community members, I understand that. I also understand the other challenges that we came into place. So with that being said, I'm confident that we're headed in the right direction with our bond project. I'm confident in the process we've used to get bids from contractors as well. And we've stayed the course of everything we've done in the first 3 schools, and every community has something different that we have to address. And this is one of the areas we had to address here. In our first 3 schools, or let me back up, in our first 2 schools, they stayed on site with the schools being built in their backyard. We had to disrupt both schools' playgrounds, move them over, because we know playgrounds are important in elementary. That's an adjustment or change we had to make. In Woodland's case, we had to remove the entire school and put them at the old Haverhill, and we're rolling with 2 schools on site. So what I'm saying is, in terms of us doing everything we can to keep the students first, with education moving forward, we sometimes have to make these tough decisions and recommendations. And I feel comfortable that since we've used the same process throughout all of our schools, you can always say things could be better or differently. And anything we learn from this, we'll move those forward. Another example would be now that we're at England Road, we've proposed doing a new parcel for that site. But what's our opportunity to meet with the entire neighborhood to get their permission to potentially see a site? We saw it as a parcel that was double the size of the current one. We thought the price was within reason. So even though I'm not in the role Russ is doing now, we're trying to check every box possible along the way. OAK has been in this business for a number of years. Tower Pinkstra as well. Plant Moran is advising us as well. And I don't know where else we could build Amberley's site. We want to keep it on their, in their neighborhoods. I don't see a way to build a school without touching one tree. I just don't. I don't see a way to do that, okay? Math sometimes get in the way. That percentage of buildable site with the school being there gets pretty small, and therefore we have to remove some trees. But I'll be happy to answer any other questions related to the process.
Well, I appreciate that, and I want to say to the folks who spoke to us, 3 years ago, we have this woods in our backyard, and 3 years ago, a neighbor who lives on the opposite side of the woods basically sold a parcel and took every tree down on the parcel that they own, and somebody built a house there. And it broke our heart. When you see trees cleared, it breaks your heart. And I want to acknowledge that. I'm going to support this, and I'm going to strongly support it because I think it's the best solution for the community, and I want to build on what you said. You had a really difficult task in trying to site that school on that property. You had the well fields, which looks like all buildable land, and it's not.
Correct.
You have the existing school, and you have the woods. And I recall a number of conversations of we need to protect as much of the woods as possible. And what you delivered was you delivered a solution that went into the woods a bit, and it went into the current building a bit. So we've got to decommission 5 classrooms for the next 2 or 2.5 years and make do in that building. So I want to acknowledge, oh, and the other thing we could have done is we could have moved those kids to the old Haverhill, but we would have had to wait until the Woodland people were out and then move the Haverhill, move the Amberley kids over there for another 2 years, which would have pushed the whole project back 2 more years. And it would have been 2 more years of operating 2 schools in the Haverhill neighborhood. And the Haverhill neighborhood deserves kudos because that's the price they've borne in this project, is they've had that extra pressure on their neighborhood. So I just want to acknowledge that this is about balancing things. And well, and the one thing that we were not going to do is move the Amberley school out of the Amberley neighborhood. I mean, that would have been a solution too.
Well, that's what I was just going to say.
No.
When we started talking about this elementary bond project, 5 years ago or more, we took a pulse on the community. What do you want?
You didn't?
What do you, oh yes, we had community meetings, we brought people in to talk at tables, we had presentations, we had things up on the boards at both the high schools. And the overwhelming sentiment of the community was, we want 5 schools to be replaced on the properties that they exist now. That was loud and clear from people. So there was input. And we have that. Not to mention that your thing about Haverhill, Amberley students are like 200 too many to fit into the Haverhill building. So that's not even an option.
Well, I mean, we knock doors in
Yes.
Amberley.
Yes.
That's the #1 feedback that we got knocking doors is, when are you gonna get Amberley done?
Right.
And get it done. So I just want to acknowledge this. But I also want to say, when my neighbors cut the trees down on that lot, it broke our hearts. And so I totally get that, but I'm going to vote yes on this. I think this is the best solution for the community. And I think it did the best job of balancing the needs and balancing the impact on all potentially impacted parties. And I do appreciate people coming and speaking and causing this discussion.
If I may.
No, you may not.
I'll remove myself. Address April 15, the date with that, the bats. You can take me out, I'm gone. Good luck.
The point was the lack of engagement.
Johnny, you were in construction before you took this 7 months ago.
I was going to say that as someone who appreciates woods and my background myself, that I can imagine how heart-wrenching it must be to wake up to the sounds or be doing things and hear things cutting down without knowing it's coming. I can understand and I feel that. I would love to know if you have it in front of you, I don't know if you do, what other communication we had done in the past with any other construction things with neighbors, because I'm not as familiar with that. I do remember and I think it was like 7 years ago that we were talking about schools, and then it got tabled with COVID. But I remember the community meetings, and I was pretty hot in one of those community meetings talking to y'all at that point in time. So I know we did some outreach then. I'm just not sure as far if you could just get later if you don't have it here. What we've done.
I don't have the specifications in front of me. What I can say is we treated this process similar to the first 3 schools. The element that's a challenge with all of this is building one school that meets the vast majority of our needs. So as Tom showed in the earlier slide, there are several phases to the design. There's this conceptual design, schematic design, design development, and the like. And literally all of our schools are what we call a kit of parts, which means it starts with some basic principles that we want to share for parity. But at each level that we're working through the design and figuring out the position, we are not in a position to literally stop and say, let's go to the community and get an okay. Because if that being the case, it would be more than double our timeline if we stopped at every portion. And we did not do that in the first 3 schools either. But on the front end, we did send out an open invitation to families to come to our I forgot what we called it, but it was in the spring. We invited all to come. Parents, anyone could come to that particular piece. And then we also asked the principal to help us with what we call the design advisory team, which we also did for all of the previous 3 schools. And that was open to teachers. They could potentially have a student rep, parent, and/or community rep. Because we wanted to design the building taking all of those lenses in play. And also, as the board has seen in the past, we also engage students in the design process of what they want to see in their future school. So I want to say that our process is pretty strong, and not to compare us to other districts. We do a lot of engagement that other districts don't necessarily do, but we think there's value in the engagement. But we're not asking people to design the school. We're asking people to tell us what makes their new school special, and we work to interpret their language and put that in the design concepts.
Would you mind, real quick, one of the things that was brought up was environmental impact, and this might be a joint conversation. I know that I've heard pieces of that, and maybe putting it together in a single picture might be a good idea. I've come to learn that life has to be a balance between things that would be really awesome and things that we don't necessarily like to do. Things that are really awesome, and we have to balance out and weigh things, and that means that don't always get everything 100% what we would like, as much as I would absolutely love to. Could you just kind of encapsulate or summarize some of the things between the two of you that have been done to make the impact to the environment smaller than it might have been otherwise?
You know, again, I'm going to defer that to Russ.
I figured you might.
Only because he's in the day-to-day more than I am on this end. And he keeps me apprised it's going. But.
Yeah, and I know that you've mentioned it in pieces, but maybe putting it together as a picture would help.
So with the environmental impact, one thing we have to worry about is the city wells.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the first things we are working with. We work with the city, we got an environmental expert involved, and we're going to be doing, as you'll see in here, I got a proposal to do some soil testing on site, just to make sure we know what soil we're working with on site, because we want to know if we have to bring any soil off site, because we're going to have to bring soil on site to bring it up to grade so we have good rain flow. So we have environmental experts coming in to give us their expert opinion on the soil, things like that. We do sampling of what we're building on to make sure it's compactable and the building won't sink or adjust or anything like that. The bat that's been brought up tonight is one thing that we researched and found out that we do have to worry about the migration patterns of bats. And that pattern has not started yet, but it is coming up. And that's what the deadline is. So we wanted to have the trees, make sure those trees were removed off the site before they started their migration pattern. So that's why they were cut when they were cut, is to avoid that environmental issue of cutting trees down during their migration. We're ahead of their migration right now.
We want to be clear that not all trees are being removed.
Right.
Okay? I don't want the message to be that we cleared out the entire property. That is not true. As Russ articulated in his update, we've created some version of a construction line to protect the woods, particularly those woods, obviously, that butt up against the back of our neighbors and our community members. From a construction standpoint, it's easier to not have any trees there. And we've protected those trees as much as we can to build this school. Even if you go to the Haverhill site, we protected 2 large trees. Of all the work we did there, we took 2 beautiful trees, and there were 3 of them total, but it was one that we had to remove. But we built a protection around those trees, and those 2 trees are still standing. There will be a little version of some replanting of trees. I can allow you to talk more about that because you have more details. But I want to be clear that we are not removing all trees from that site. That's not true. That's not accurate.
Yeah, we're definitely adding more trees. One of the parts about building in a building, if you guys drive by Woodland, you'll see there's a lot of stuff that goes into building a building. There's block, there's steel work. All that place has to have a home on the site during construction. You can't just be bringing in semis the day they need the stuff and lift it off the semis and put it right on the school. You have to be able to stage it on site. And so some of that drives where things are. That's kind of what drove having to remove some of the building, is to be able to get the building away from the woods a little, still have a path to be in construction, and still have ability to put block where we need to put block so the bricklayers can lay the bricks. Like Johnny said, there was a lot of effort in looking at what woods we were able to save. And I know some people don't think it's enough. Some people think it's appropriate. It's a hard line to follow, depending on, honestly, if it's in your backyard or not. And I understand. The woods behind my house was tore out Christmas Eve. They clear cut 40 acres in one day because there was one street and they said, we're putting in houses. You know, I'm like, I knew when I bought the house, I told my wife, that's not going to be there much longer. They're building houses like crazy in this area, so we'll enjoy it while we have it, but we know it's going to go away. And they clear-cutted it. I looked at the designs later and said, you guys had the opportunity to keep this section of woods here, but you guys tore it. It's easier to build when everything's gone. You got a bare plot of land. You can put anything where you want. You don't have to work around trees. So that's why they clear-cut it. We did not take that approach. We really looked at the environment and tried to keep as many trees as we could.
And I would say taking off 5 classrooms is a big deal.
That is.
Which allowed us to preserve more trees. Essentially, the 5 classrooms came off, right? Which is a disruption. But that preserved more of the tree line. Had we kept those 5 classrooms online, then that would have pushed the site for construction further north, which we were trying to preserve. So to Bo's original question, I think we tried to check as many boxes as possible to make this a great experience for our students.
Yeah, I really appreciate this discussion. You know, some folks stood up, made strong statements. I got name checked, and I'm going to vote against them, and I want them to know why. I think I own that.
Any other comments, questions?
I just want to say thanks to my fellow board members and Superintendent Edwards for having this discussion, because it has helped, you know, inform me as well. I wasn't in on those early design things 6-7 years ago. So
We have a motion, please, on page 49.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education award a contract to Choice Concrete Construction in the amount of $417,770 to construct the footings and foundation at the new Amberley Elementary, the funding for which will come from the 2026 bond fund, the 4th series from the 2021 vote.
Thank you, Bo. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving the concrete footings and foundation contract, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. And we now move to our next item. I think Russ is up for the next 5 or 6.
Yeah, you're gonna see me a little bit.
The earthwork backfilling of foundation change order.
Yeah, so this is a change order. During the process of going out to bid, we saved the foundation, the digging of the foundation, and then the backfilling of the foundation is a separate thing. We have both the concrete people give us a number for it, and then we have whoever won our earthwork give us a number for it. And then we compare the two. And we compared the two. In this case, Cripps Fontaine Excavating won out by a little over $7,000. So we'd like to award them the contract, well, basically a change order, to add that to their scope of work. It was just a way for us to make sure we got the best price, the best bang for our buck on this one. So we'd like to award them the contract of $120,100 to add excavation and backfilling of the foundation work at Amberley Elementary School. This will also come from the 2026 bond funds, the 4th series, and the 2021 vote.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Russ? There's a motion, please, on page 52.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education authorize OAK Company to issue a change order to Cripps Fontaine Excavating Incorporated in the amount of $120,100 to add the excavation and backfilling of the foundation work at Amberley Elementary School, funding for which will come from the 2026 bond fund, the 4th series from the 2021 vote.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving the earthwork backfilling of foundation change order, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Our next item is number 6, action item, Amberley Due Care Evaluation.
Yes, we kind of spoke about this a little minute ago. We'd like to hire Tritera to put together a due care plan to test the soil around the site to make sure, when we work with the city and environmental experts, they recommend that we do the testing because of the city wells on the property. It's a little different from our other sites. Our other sites don't have city wells on them. It's the first time we're working with that. So with their recommendation, we want to do this testing of the soil, just so, because we know we have to bring some soil in. We just want to see if we have to bring some soil out. And they'll put together a due care plan for us of what we have to follow, barring the results. So that, give you the size, number is $163,473. I do have a 15% contingency on that in case we need to add a couple more boring samples to the number, and this will come from the 2026 bond funds, 4th series, and the 2021 vote.
Any questions for us? I just have one. The results of this study won't determine whether or not we build a school. It's all about how much dirt we have to bring in.
Yeah, it's the process in which how we build it.
Okay, very good. There's a motion, please, on page 55.
Mr. President, I make a motion that the Board of Education approve the contract for environmental soil and groundwater testing at Amberley Elementary with Triterra of Mattawan, Michigan, for a total of $163,473, which includes a 15% contingency. Funding will come from the 2026 bond fund, the fourth series from the 2021 vote.
Thank you, Mary Lou. Is there a second? Thank you. All those in favor of approving the Amberley Due Care Evaluation, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The Amberley Due Care Evaluation is approved. We'll next move to action item number 7 to approve the Lake Center easement request.
So, the city of Portage approached me. They want to do a 10-foot wide, non-motorized bike path starting at Lake Center Elementary and working its way up into town here. It's basically, this is just us giving an easement to be able to construct that, and with an easement, we will have, obviously, the construction rights and those type of things are all part of that. But they'll build the 10-foot walkway for the community to use. It seems like for me, it seems like a good thing to do for the community. Walk non-motorized path be built. It does, they give an estimate, it's about a little over $24,000 donation may be given for the easement to the city. To me, it makes sense to be good neighbors with the city, allow them to build the walkway, because our people, our students, our families, our community will benefit from it. And there's a sidewalk there anyway, so we'll be taking out the current side, they'll be taking out the current sidewalk, not us. So they'll take out the current sidewalk and put in this new 10-foot one, and then they're responsible for maintaining it.
Any questions for Russ?
I have much appreciated the bike and walking trails in our community. Not every community has that, and being able to extend that to other areas to keep bicyclists safer. One of the things keeping me from doing the biking that I want to do and have been doing is always the concern about biking alongside cars that go a little too fast and can make the bike wobble. And this keeps things a whole lot safer for everybody, especially our students.
Anyone else?
Well, this is just an improved livability issue, and it's, for the community, and it's a proud moment to be able to vote yes on something like this.
It's a good thing. Here's a motion, please, on page 59.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education approve the easements identified as easement number 50, 51, and 52 as presented, and authorize Russ Gerbers, Assistant Superintendent of Operations, to execute all pertinent documentation related to said easements on behalf of Portage Public Schools.
Thank you, Kimberly. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving the Lake Center easement request, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The Lake Center easement request is approved. Our next item is a discussion item on the Central High School and Northern High School tennis court resurfacing.
Yes, it is. Long story short, the tennis courts at Northern High School and Central High School were last resurfaced in 2017. Since that time, you're starting to see some cracks appear in the resurfacing, and it's starting to get to that point where you got to take care of it. Otherwise, it could get worse to the point where you can't fix it anymore. So this, we went out to bid, the district went out to bid for this project, secured a number of bids. They were all fairly competitive. We're recommending moving forward with Racket Sports Incorporated out of Comstock Park for the amount of $89,944. This will come from the 2019 Building and Site Sinking Fund. Overall, it'll happen this summer. It will have minimal impact on any of the camps or anything we operate. We'll be able to work around this.
I think it's important to note that by maintaining this, even though it's a large sum of money, by maintaining what we have, we end up saving money overall, instead of having to completely redo the surface more often, more frequently.
It keeps it playable, competitive, and you've got some liability issues you don't want to get into if the cracks get too big and things like that.
A few of us on the board can remember when this was done before. Wow, time flies.
It does.
Russ has requested that we move this item to action. There's a motion to do that on page 90.
Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education move the Central High School, Northern High School tennis court resurfacing discussion item to action.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of moving this item to action, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is moving to action, and there's a motion there to do that.
And Mr. President, I move that the Board of Education authorize a contract in the amount of $89,944 to Racket Sports Incorporated from Comstock Park, Michigan, for the resurfacing of the tennis courts at Central High School and Northern High School, the funding for which will be provided through the 2019 Building and Site Sinking Fund.
Thank you, Terry. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving the Central High School and Northern High School tennis court resurfacing, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Our next discussion item is to replace doors and locks at West Middle School.
This is my last one for tonight, hopefully. West Middle School, give you guys a little bit of background. West Middle School and Angling Road Elementary are the only two buildings that have a different key than the rest of the district, which does get some issues when, if there's an emergency, make sure people have the right keys to get into the right building. You no longer have like a master key for the whole district. You gotta remember, okay, we're going to this building, I gotta use this key versus this key. We also have some old hardware and some old doors that, the old hardware is, at the time, it was fine because they didn't have the ADA rules we have nowadays, but the old hardware is not ADA compliant anymore in some of the doors, so we want to address that as well. With Angling Road Elementary, we know we're getting a whole new building, so I'm not worried about that one, but Central Middle School, that building, I want to address it, and we have the opportunity to address it with some of what we call our 31 AA safety and security funds. Can be used for this. It's been approved by the state to use those safety and security funds to address this issue. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the building, replace doors that need to be replaced, put the right lock sets in them so they all operate on the district master key. So this building is up to date with all the other buildings in the district, knowing that Angling Road will follow suit. So we went out to bid for this project through OAK, and Tower Pinkster helped with this one, just because there's so many logistical, what doors are where, which ones are fire rated, which ones are not. So there's a lot of logistics involved in this. So we went out to bid. Hall Builders LLC won the bid in the amount of $219,077, and this would be paid for out of the 2024-2025 31 AA Safety and Security Funds. Is there any
questions for Russ? Russ has requested that we bring this item to action. Is that okay? Okay, we need a motion, please, to bring this item to action.
Mr. President, I move that we bring the purchase of that's not the right thing. Replacement doors and locks at West Middle School, OP 6320, to action.
Thank you. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of bringing the replacement doors and locks at West Middle School to action, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Oh, opposed? No one. Okay. We need now a motion, please, to approve this.
Mr. President, I recommend that the Board of Education approve award a contract to Hall Builders LLC in the amount of $219,077 for the replacement of doors and locks at West Middle School, the funding for which will come from the 2024-2025 31 AA Safety and Security Funds.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of replacement doors and locks at West Middle School, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. And now we have a new presenter. Ryan needs money again. We have a discussion item, purchase of interactive flat panels for Lake Center, 12th Street, and Woodland.
Evening, Board Trustees, Superintendent Edwards. Tonight I recommend that the Board of Ed approve the purchase of 66 Smart RX interactive flat panels from Forte Incorporated in the amount of $372,932 for Lake Center, 12th Street, and Woodland Elementary School. The funds for these interactive flat panels will come from the 2025 bond fund, the third series from the 2021 vote. So this recommendation is, this specific order is to complete the outfitting of all of the classrooms at those three schools, so Lake Center, 12th Street, and Woodland. Previous orders were all intended for the early adopters, those that wanted to be at the forefront in the professional development for how to use the boards, how to incorporate those into their rooms, and the intent that all 3 of those schools will be outfitted, ready to go for fall, upcoming school year. So our plan is to schedule out the deliveries. The boards and the carts will be delivered right directly to the schools at strategic times, taking into consideration all the summer projects that we've got going, whether it's summer school or cleaning or a lighting project or whatever else is happening. So we're working on that with our own facilities department and custodial staff, and making sure we have a spot to put those together, and for our team to construct those. We will handle that ourselves. We won't be paying for an outside party to do that. Our department will handle all of that construction of the carts and the boards, and deploy those for the next year. So this is consistent with our theme that we've been going forward at those 3 schools, and decided that those are our future-ready device and the appropriate device that we're going to put in those classrooms. This is part of the REMC bid save process, just like all of the other the IFPs, and so it didn't require a formal bidding process. Attached the quote for you. Happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions for Ryan?
Is this one we need to move to action for timeliness?
Action's always welcome. It's not necessary for this. We're looking at the first round of deliveries in early June, and Forte has ensured that that's possible even with an early May approval.
Okay, we'll move to discussion item number 4, the Lightspeed mic replacement for Lake Center and 12th Street.
Tonight, I also recommend that the Board of Education approve the purchase of Lightspeed instructional audio systems from Lightspeed Technologies in the amount of $149,240. The funds for these devices will come from the same bond fund, 2025 bond fund, 3rd series from the 2021 vote. So Lake Center and 12th Street Elementary is obviously not new construction, not new buildings, but they're due for classroom technology refresh. And part of that classroom technology currently is an audio enhanced system. Lightspeed is the manufacturer currently of the device that we use. You might remember at Central Elementary and Haverhill in the new buildings, we did also equip those classrooms with new Lightspeed mics. And the newer ones have some capabilities that they haven't had before. One example that you don't see in the recommendation is just the way technology moves. Our teachers now can have the ability to talk through the mic, and through a Chrome extension on a Chromebook can automatically and instantaneously translate into another language for a student with headphones on. That's one example of the advantage that we get through the newer technology. So we're excited about those possibilities. There's also voice amplification is the basic feature or the basic reason to have those. But they do have some internal calling features that we're working on and programming, as well as some emergency alerting capabilities. The quote that you have, that overall amount, is for both buildings, so we'll be splitting those. It's 70 devices. They'll be split 35 each between both buildings, and it also represents a $100 per existing device credit, so a total of $7,000 credit that we get for recycling our current mics that we have. Lightspeed is a company that takes those and then refurbishes those and distributes those to other schools at a discounted rate. Typically schools that can't afford it and are able to do that. Same thing, MC bid save process, so no formal bid required. You have the quote attached. Any questions you might have on that?
May I just give a quick comment as a teacher? Just use something like this, not one that does the translating. Being able to speak softly to a classroom and be heard in every corner of the classroom means that you're not raising the energy level of the classroom with kids is a really big deal. Very important. The comment about being able to translate. I have taught classes where at least half, if not more, this number of years ago, so don't know the exact, 2/3 of the students came into my classroom not speaking English. That is tough because you're still holding the students to the same high standards, and they're trying to learn the content while still learning English. It's a lot. being able to translate, wow. I did not realize that that was in here. I missed that when reading, and I think that
It wasn't in this.
Okay, good.
And it's actually not just the light speed mics, but it's technology that we already use. It's the extension on the background that's doing the work, but it's an example of the capability that these have.
That is impressive, and I see it benefiting a very large number of students. Thank you.
Exciting.
Anyone else? Thank you, Ryan. Great proposals. Thank you very much. Our last discussion item for the evening is the policy update. Johnny.
Thank you again. Board, you have about 10 different areas in the Neola policies. I'm not going to go through all 10 in great detail. I just want to lift up a few of them. Our Neola policy updates, we are considered a Neola client. The policies come to us, the suggested language. I then share them with my team and have them to review it to make sure that we are accepting the recommendations that is in line with our practices. They do some scrubbing of it, and then we come back and bring these recommendations to the board, okay? Sometimes these are strongly recommended, some of them are just recommended. Want to lift up, I give you a summary on page 104, policy 2370 related to online blending learning. You may have heard or read some areas about this across the state of Michigan of what online learning should look like. As a function of that, during testing dates, sometimes school districts would allow students who are not testing to experience a virtual learning experience. So here now is a clear cap on the number of times you can kind of do some of that stuff. And we've been working to peel that back. But that is aligned with the provisions of the law. I want you to understand that some of these law changes come when our school aid dollars are done. So October-ish is usually when they come out. It gives districts and attorneys some time to review it and then make those recommendations or suggestions. Sometimes those policies or mandates from the state are effective next school year. Some of them are effective immediately. So this is an example of one that's kind of effective immediately. I'll talk about cell phones later, which is effective next year. Want to talk about volunteers for a moment, starting on page 105 and going to 106. What this does is streamlines two different policies into one. While the content remains the same, it recognizes that our volunteers are not considered employees of the school district, but rather function more of a support general district operations. And we do have volunteers from time to time. All volunteers have to be fingerprinted through our HR service and the like. Sometimes people are volunteering until they become a third-party coach or something like that. But all of which says that volunteers are not employees. And then it also ends with teaching and non-teaching employees who receive supplemental contract or stipends to supervise these extracurricular activities are covered by other policies. So certainly, if you are an employee of the district and you're coaching an athletic team, this kind of goes in a different level, and also you'll pay whatever is negotiated from that. Care of students with diabetes, that policy is highly recommended but not required. The changes related to that, while I am not a medical expert, we did have our individuals with our ESI department review it, and they were comfortable with adopting this policy. A number of our students have medical challenges or situations, and we want to do our best to honor that and give them their dignity to make sure that their medical needs are addressed. Procurement, policy 6325, it mandates that procurement transactions must be conducted with full and open competition, sound business judgment, and includes requirements for a contract administration system. As you can see earlier today in other contracts and in the past, when we put our jobs out for bid for procurement purposes, there are exceptions, would be something like that comes through RIMSI that is already competitively bid statewide. We take our jobs, we put them on a public-facing website. In some cases, it even has to go in the newspaper, and it allows people to bid on the work. Beyond what's not written in the policy, though, from a practical standpoint, particularly related to construction, before any contract is awarded, we have what's called a post-bid interview. In that post-bid interview, that's the opportunity for us as the owner, our architects, our construction manager, or our owner's rep to ask questions to specifically make sure that the contractor understands what they're bidding on. In some cases, the lowest qualified bidder loses out because they either didn't understand the scope of the full project or their bid is incomplete. So that's a little bit about that sound business judgment we try to incorporate in that, and when in doubt, we call Paula for permission to make sure we are handling all of our business practices, and Paula does a good job of making sure we dot our I's and cross our T's. The next one on page 107, policy talks about protocols when students can use wireless communication during emergencies. You may know that the legislation and the governor signed legislation around cell phone bans and the like, particularly during instruction, during instructional periods. But it allows students to use their cell phones during an emergency. So this policy just kind of speaks to what's going on from that. So students in the midst of an emergency can use their cell phones. That policy by state law says that we must have something in place by next school year. This is moving in that direction. Currently, right now, the way we operate in our schools, not exclusively, but primarily, we have different procedures in place that already says you can't use your cell phone, but there are some exceptions to the rule. I think we're strongest at elementary, primarily because there are not as many phones there. I think we're just as strong at the middle school level. And the high school has been working on this area as well. As you know, the pendulum swings with these things. Many years ago when I started as a high school principal, the phones weren't smart, they were very expensive, and they weren't in students' hands. Well, now, the phones are cheaper per se. They are smarter and highly more accessible to young people. And people believe some of that is a distraction to the learning. The last policy I just want to talk about is specialized transportation for our students with IEPs, individualized educational program. Sometimes people perceive that if a student has an IEP, they automatically qualify for transportation. That is not the case. Every student with an IEP doesn't need transportation, okay? But what this policy basically says, that the IEP team should make that determination, which is true, consider all options, and do it without cost. So what I'm saying is they can't say student A needs transportation, but it's going to cost us more money to pick that student up, so therefore we're not going to do it. That's not the case. We will continue to honor our students with disabilities who have specialized transportation in their IEP as required by law. So these policies that we update, while the policy is recommended, not required, we thought it's in a good position to put that policy in play, and it aligns with our procedures that we're already doing related to transporting our students with IEPs. That's a high-level overview, but I want to pause and give the board opportunity to ask questions related to the policies. If I can't answer it, hopefully someone in the team that works closer than I do can answer it as well. So I want to pause and give you an opportunity to ask questions.
And if any come up in the next couple of weeks, please feel free to ask Johnny. We would take action on this at our next meeting, so there's
Correct.
plenty of time, so.
Absolutely.
Any questions? Okay, then, we've reached the end of our agenda. I need board self-assessments and monitoring board evaluation, and with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.